I'll blow my wrist.
But,
Wait,
are we good? Are we, no?
Slide it
Yes?
all the way,
No?
slide it
No.
all the way up.
Oh, yeah, the on
wait for a
button.
couple minutes.
And
So
then
you have
wait.
to stand up there and vamp for a
Is it-
little bit, like tell us a joke or something?
I tested it 7 times, it worked every time. Is it working?
Now, is it working?
Yes.
Welcome, everybody. We're so glad you are here, and thank you for the library for letting us be here, not in the cold. I think this is the first year that we have done this inside. Usually we are out and braving the weather, but normally it's been great.
Yeah.
I think we had one year where we were like, mostly great.
Yeah.
But, well, wind always, we live here, it's good. So thank you for shifting the location and being here and being warm and safe and not in the wind. My name is Melissa Martin. I'm a representative of Zonta International. We have a local chapter. It is Zonta Club of Cheyenne, and we advocate for women's issues in a variety of ways. We just had a big event yesterday, and it was very successful in my mind. We'll have to talk to the president to see how successful it was. But it is to bring awareness about issues affecting women, not only on a local level, but then also on a national level. So if you are interested in learning more about that, there's many Zonchans in the room, and you can reach out to us. I'm also a member of the Grace United Methodist Social Activist Group. Action
But you
Group.
can be an
I just make stuff up? No, don't tell me that, because I will.
Call whatever you want.
Call whatever you want, just do things, yes. And we are a group from our local church that, again, works to bring awareness and to honor the work that is being done in the community and support them, because like Zonta International addresses things on a national level, Zonta Club of Cheyenne addresses things on a local level, and it's not enough. Unfortunately, it's not enough. So we need to keep this awareness going, and obviously I'm preaching to the choir and use a very churchy reference here because you guys are here and you understand this. So you are one person. Yes, yay, and that's great.
Good.
Celebrate yourself. But you know other people. You have a network, you have a community. So in my professional life, I am surrounded by young adults. They are in their 20s. And somebody once told me that if you can survive your 20s, then you're gonna be good. You don't know in your 20s where you're gonna live, who you're gonna partner up with, what your educational outcomes are gonna be. In your 20s, there's so many unknowns. Think about when you were 20. Did you have life figured out?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Did you tell everybody you had life figured out when you were like, what's going on, right? In my 20s, I got married and I moved across the country, you know, for funsies. Well, that's where the job was. And I had no fear. I was like, whatever, I'll go over there. My husband carried all the fear for us. If you know him, you can understand these comments. But I was like, it'll be great. He's like, we've never visited there. We don't know what it looks like or who the people are. I'm like, there's good people everywhere, it's fine. Okay, I was in my 20s, maybe a little naive. So we packed up in a small U-Haul, towed an extra car, and moved across the country. And it was phenomenal. And my husband even admits that now, which I don't actively remind him of often. So think about your 20s. Did you know things? Maybe, maybe not. Did you pretend like you knew things? Because you weren't allowed to not pretend that you knew things. Did you have something to prove? Did you have ideas and expectations of where to go? Were those expectations yours or were they given to you? And I bring this up because I'm surrounded by mostly 20-year-olds. Now the issue we're talking about today, let me be very clear, is not limited to mostly 20-year-olds. It spans, unfortunately, all age groups. But I'm bringing this up because one of my 20-year-olds that I'm interacting with said, I miss community. I miss people. Look at the world that we have given our 20-year-olds. And they are graduating from high school and from college, or they're getting trade degrees. They are mainly meeting people in safe social distancing environments behind masks. Their world is weird. It's definitely different than mine. And I doubt many of my 20-year-olds are like, yeah, let's move across the state, across the country, it'll be fine. We'll be good. They are fearful. through no fault of their own, through a weirdness of life that is now, yes. And so the comment about community struck me, because how in the world did I think and confidently tell my husband, like I knew everything, oh, it'll be fine. There's good people everywhere, which I fully believe there are good people everywhere. But it was that sense of community that when we got there and we knew nobody, we had strangers scoop us up, probably because they were like, oh, you need help, you know nothing. Which was true, but I was like, I got this under control. But look at how the sense of community really celebrated and took care of us. And we flourished and we thrived and did amazing things, but we didn't do it alone. And we thought we were gonna do it alone. We thought, I got this, I'm good. And we live in Wyoming, and I am a Wyomingite, and I love Wyoming. And Wyoming says, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And I disagree. Because yes, my fortitude and my upbringing said, yes, you can do things. But it was a sense of community that gave me boots and straps. And it was a sense of community that scooped me up and said, you can do this. Yeah, I can do this, sure. And how do we as a community, which is why you are all here, take care of each other in whatever word and whatever way that looks? In your program, you will see there's a ton of resources in our community. We take care of each other. So I want you, as you listen to this group come up and talk and advocate for all the one, and I've interacted with several of these organizations, and they are phenomenal, and they are taking care of our community. You're going to hear from them, and what I want you to do is I want you to make note. I want you to say, oh yeah, that speaks to me. How can I support them? Oh yeah, that's a story that I need to pass along. You are one person, but you are a member of a community. Whatever community that is in your life, I want you to pass along that information, because it is that awareness building and it is that education that is going to move the needle. I am one person, and I have a voice, and I get to use it here today. Thank you, Kathy. But it is very much my voice, and I have a platform to talk, just like all of you. Now, whether you're fine talking through a microphone to a group of people, or whether you are going to coffee with somebody and saying, hey, did you know about this organization? That's how change happens. We need to keep celebrating the work that's being done in our community to take care of the people that need it. No one succeeds alone. No one fails alone. It is a sense of community that we are providing the boots and the straps to continue. So thank you for taking time. You left the house, and my Zoom people or my online people, thank you for joining us. But on a snowy day, you are here because you care about our community. So keep going. Don't leave today and be like, lunchtime, I'm out. How do you continue this conversation? Because that's how change is going to happen. So we are going to move to the next person, and it is Pastor Zach Bechtel from my church. So thank you for being here, and he's going to offer the opening prayer. Of course.
Thank you, Missy, and thank you all who are here in person with us and those who have joined us online. As Missy talked about community, and I had the opportunity to be the pastor of Grace United Methodist Church, and all of that means we're gathering in person and online and reminding folks that in the loneliest and most human times in our life, that we are truly not alone. We have exactly what Missy said. We have community. We're surrounded by people who love us dearly and are walking life with us, and we're also surrounded by the Holy Spirit that holds us closely, reminding us that we are not alone. So with that, let's join together in prayer. Gracious and loving God, we come to you on this beautiful, cold, and snowy day to gather in community, to do the hard work to end domestic violence in our community, to do the hard work to surround one another in times where we all feel lost and lonely. We're at the end of our rope, or we're tired, we're hurting, and we feel the loneliest we've ever been, and we know that you surround us, and that we're surrounded by people who love us dearly and want to help. Continue to send us from this place out into our world to help in this violence, to bring hope and healing to everyone in our community. Continue to walk with us as we go to be your hands and feet in all that you call us to do. We pray these things in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Hello, my name is Jody Gostis. I'm with the Zonta Club of Cheyenne, part of Zonta International. And we are acknowledging International Women's Day, which is March 8th. Yes, and take advantage of a beautiful weekend to do it. This year, our theme is on breaking the chains, and it starts with acknowledging what a toxic relationship is. Many of us have used toxic to describe a relationship at some point, either someone we've dated, a friendship that turned out sour, a family member we try to avoid at all costs, a boss that made us feel uncomfortable working together. So what defines a toxic relationship? Two people in a relationship aren't going to get along 100% of the time. Arguments and disagreements are normal, and there is a healthy way to fight with someone you care about, which doesn't involve degradation, threats, or violence. So ask yourself the following questions to start. Do you feel constantly drained after spending time with a certain person? Does that person leave you feeling generally unhappy or discouraged? Do you feel like your self-esteem has lowered since meeting that person? Does this person consistently fail to support you when you need help or encouragement? Is this person often jealous? Do you feel like this person is often lying to you? Is your communication with this person filled with sarcasm, insults, or passive-aggressive attacks? Does this person often tell you what to do, such as a controlling person? Do you feel like you haven't taken very good care of yourself since meeting this person? Are you trying to draw boundaries, but your partner continues not to honor them? A toxic relationship doesn't always mean that abuse is present. It often describes a relationship that isn't healthy for one or more of the people involved, often because boundaries aren't being honored and respect isn't being given. However, it's important to recognize that an unhealthy relationship has the potential to escalate into abuse, and spotting warning signs of an abuser early is vital to our safety.
I'm Kathy Orr from Grace United Methodist Action Committee and Zonta's Advocacy Committee with some of these ladies. Thank you for coming. A toxic relationship feels off. I mean, you get a feeling that something's not quite right. Your gut is likely sending you signals that other people who, the other person causes you stress and worry more often than joy. It's not the person that you probably need in your life. So then there's that sinking feeling that can happen when you know this person's actions have taken a more sinister turn. The toxic individual is now entering that abuse territory. An abuser will move the relationship forward quickly. After knowing an abuser for only a short amount of time, they claim you as soulmates, as the one and only, and that you are meant to be together. They may push you to move in together, get married, or start a family quickly. Being in the throes of emotional manipulation for an extended period of time can have real effects on your health. Many people think physical abuse is the most severe type, but survivors and experts alike have long known that emotional, psychological, and verbal abuse can be just as devastating to one's health as that physical violence. More information like this article by Amanda Kippert can be found on domesticshelter.org. It's from the December 2021 edition. Now I'd like to introduce Alex Kane, from Volunteers of America with more information.
Thanks, Kathy. Yeah, as Kathy said, my name is Alex Kane. I am the lead clinician of the mental health outpatient team at Volunteers of America. Appreciate being able to be here today. Just to kind of expand on some of the signs and warning signs of that somebody might be in a toxic relationship. You might notice somebody start to withdraw from activities they might enjoy, withdraw from their family or friends. Potentially maybe wearing clothing that might cover up scars, or just baggy clothing in general because maybe their self-esteem is tanked and they don't know how else to express themselves. And so in the pre-COVID world, you know, when we were all face-to-face, which I'm glad to be face-to-face with you all today, it might be a little bit easier to see some of these signs if you know kind of what you're looking for. However, in the COVID world, that can be really challenging. So today I want to talk about a few things. Texting, possibly video conferencing apps, and or ways of reaching out, and social media too. So texting, as far as texting goes, if you suspect that somebody might be in some sort of toxic relationship, it's important to continue to check in on that person. We can't obviously force them to talk, but I think letting people know that we care and letting them know that somebody out there might see that something is going on is important. And so it's important to kind of know that person's baseline, especially when it comes to nonverbal communications. I'll use myself for example. When I'm texting with somebody, if I'm like in a bad mood or something, typically my responses are a lot shorter, maybe 1 or 2 words. Usually there's like a period at the end of 1 or 2 words, which isn't even a complete sentence. And so the people who know me know that like if that comes out, that might be a sign that I'm irritated or upset about something. So kind of knowing what your friend or family member what their typical texting style might look like, and then picking out differences in that I think is important within that mode of communication. As far as social media, the same thing is kind of important to know. If you're somebody who typically post, a couple posts a week, or typically the tone of your post is maybe more positive or happy, that's important to know. And then if you start to notice a change in somebody that you care about in the way that they're posting or the things that they're posting, maybe the content of whatever their post is, or they're just way more or way less posts on social media, that might be an indicator too to check in with that person. Phone calls are great, but I think sometimes it's important to be able to see the whites of people's eyes, and so video conferencing services or apps are out there. If you're like me, I'm the lone Android user in my entire family, and everybody else has iPhones, and so I'm not about that FaceTime ability, but there's other ways of video chatting with my family members, different apps that are out there. Facebook Messenger is one. We've all become very familiar with Google Meet and Zoom and whatever other video conferencing things are out there at this day and age. And so utilizing whatever you need to still be able to get that face-to-face contact with people that you care about, especially if you anticipate that, or you maybe suspect that something's going on in their lives. And I think it's important too to recognize that all of our lives are busy, and so just taking the time to be there with people and to be genuine and still not just say, hey, how was your day, and just kind of casually as you walk past them on the street, or just a casual text message, but take the time to show that you're genuine in your curiosity and you actually want to know how they're doing and what's going on in their life. I think that's super important and can be a really great way of reaching out to people in these somewhat socially distanced times that we're living in. So that's what I have to say.
Morning. It is truly my honor and privilege to be with you guys here today, and I want to thank each and every single one of you for being here, for being here to bring awareness to domestic violence, for taking action against domestic violence, for showing your support, or perhaps for some of you to even begin or continue healing. I really believe it is through our collective voice that we can create positive change in ending domestic violence. My name is Jackie Parker, and I am the director for an organization called Strong Families, Strong Wyoming. And for us at Strong Families, our experience with understanding and addressing toxic relationships, domestic violence, teen dating violence, comes from our work in engaging, educating, and empowering youth and young adults to know how to form healthy, equitable, stable relationships. Our mission is to help teens build better relationships and better futures for a stronger Wyoming. And so we've worked nearly 15 years to bring healthy relationship education, including preventative education, to thousands of teens all across the state of Wyoming. Our ultimate goal is to help teens learn the difference between healthy and unhealthy behaviors in the relationships, to love better in all relationships, and ultimately to stop violence before it starts. And today's rally actually comes on the heels of February's nationwide month-long effort to bring awareness to teen dating violence. And while we recognize February's teen dating violence awareness and October as domestic violence awareness, these issues are ongoing and they deserve year-long attention and priority, just as we're doing here today. Every day is a good day to spread awareness and bring attention to the growing epidemic of teen dating violence and domestic violence that are plaguing our communities, our friends, and our family. So thank you to Zonta and the Grace United Methodist Action Team for holding this rally today and giving us space to talk about these important issues. When it comes to our youth, because of their limited relationship experience, many don't know what a relationship looks like at their age. And that makes them pretty vulnerable to confronting unhealthy relationship behaviors that they don't recognize or they might not be able to safely navigate. In fact, an astonishingly 1 in 3 teens will experience some form of abuse before they become an adult, which is alarming and deeply disturbing. And research indicates that youth that experience teen dating violence are more likely to suffer from anxiety, from depression, from eating disorders, from substance abuse, poor academic performance, or even suicide ideation or attempts, and that can be felt for many years afterwards. We also know that most teens don't tell anybody what's happening in their relationships. They don't come forward. It's because they might be afraid, or they're embarrassed, or ashamed, or they might think that it's their fault, or even think that, or hold hopes that it'll get better. Further, we know that the detrimental impacts of dating violence during adolescence can and oftentimes does perpetuate into unhealthy patterns in future relationships, which sadly a lot of these teens are more susceptible to experiencing violence as an adult. And we also know and recognize that abuse can happen to anyone. It doesn't discriminate. 1 in 3 women will experience gender-based violence in their lifetime, and 1 in 7 men will experience some sort of severe physical violence in their lifetime. So the first steps to ending abuse is learning about it and talking about it. When we know how abuse happens, when we are able to see the warning signs, and when we are prepared to prevent it, we can stop it before it starts. And we talked a little bit, Jody and Kathy, Alex, what abuse looks like. Abuse is a pattern of behavior. It doesn't just happen once, and it always involves an imbalance of power and control. And many forms of abusive behaviors are often difficult to recognize and made even more ominous by messages that we see in pop culture, TV, movies, music, or through our media, which tend to normalize these behaviors or even glamorize it, which is why having these conversations is so important and calling out these behaviors. Physical abuse is typically what we think of when we think of domestic violence because the injuries are visible. But as Kathy mentioned, emotional and psychological abuse can have scars that are long-lasting and leave a lasting impression on the victim. They're usually more inconspicuous, emotional and psychological abuse, almost invisible to the outside world and even sometimes to the victims themselves. The initial warning flags, warning signs or red flags are often subtle and kind of just creep into those relationships, which makes it really hard for the victim to recognize, especially for our teens. Can be confusing, and especially at the beginning of a relationship, which is often clouded by feelings of excitement and exhilaration that come with being in a new relationship. They can be disguised as caring or as romantic, as being protective or attentive, saying things like they just want to spend all their time together, but at the same time they're limiting time spent with other people or isolating them from friends and family, or monitoring their whereabouts through excessive phone calls and text messages, using excuses like, I'm just concerned. The gradual escalation of controlling and abusive behavior often slowly emerge by using fear, guilt, shame, or intimidation, and it can look like belittling or insults, excessive jealousy, possessiveness, threats, blaming, and gaslighting. And in some instances, it can eventually turn and manifest into physical violence. And as we touched on, toxic and abusive relationships of any kind can have short and long-term consequences for the victim. It eats away at their confidence, at their self-esteem. It takes a heavy toll on their physical and mental health, and it has to stop. So through preventative education, teaching youth what it means to be in a healthy and stable and equitable relationship, and promoting positive norms, we are committed to making it possible that everyone has the opportunity to have a safe, healthy, respectful relationship. And what does a healthy relationship look like? Healthy relationships are comprised of kindness and caring, trust and honesty, support and encouragement, independence, upholding personal boundaries. So yes, domestic violence is a problem, but it's a problem with a solution. And through your support and your willingness to learn about it and to talk about it, we do have some collective power to making it end. And to those that are victims of domestic violence or experiencing toxic relationships, there is hope. You are not alone. There is help to provide you with support, and I believe we actually have a few different organizations, trusted organizations, here with us today that are really experts in their field that can help answer questions or help you learn more. Know your rights in relationship and know how to get support if you need it. So thank you for the opportunity for being here today, but more importantly, thank you for being here today. Thank you for your willingness to learn about the issue. Thank you for bringing awareness, and thank you for being part of the solution. It's now my pleasure to introduce Bob Vines, one of our primary community partners and the state's premier agency in this work to ending and preventing and supporting victims of domestic violence. He's the prevention specialist from the Wyoming Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault.
My stuff set up here. Thank you, Jackie. It's such a strong partnership that we've enjoyed with Strong Family, Strong Wyoming. And also other great organizations here, VOA has done some wonderful work, and we're hearing some wonderful words today from Zonta and Grace Methodist Women's Action Club.
There you go.
My name is Bob Vines, and as Jackie said, I'm a prevention specialist with the Wyoming Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. I primarily work with engaging men and boys in gender-based violence prevention. And it's such a huge honor for me to be here today speaking at the 2022 Rally for Women. Because I don't know if you've noticed this yet, I am not a woman. I'm a man. And for generations, the issue of gender-based violence has been seen as a woman's issue, right? Mm-hmm. So as I stand here in this room full of engaged, caring, dedicated women, I ask you a question. Why haven't you fixed this yet? Right? This question obviously is terribly unfair, because we know that if women were able to end domestic violence on their own, y'all would have done it by now. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, men are responsible for 76% of non-fatal domestic violence cases committed against women. Men are also responsible for nearly 95% of all sexual assaults of women, children, and other men. So by all means, ladies, come on, let's get rolling on this. There are a lot of things that need to be changed. We need to be more victim-centered in the prosecution of domestic violence and sexual assault crimes. We need to pass victim-friendly laws. We need to encourage trauma-informed practices in our investigations. We need to reject legislative attempts to quiet female voices. And we need to make it more comfortable to talk about these difficult issues. But we won't be able to solve this problem of gender-based violence until we change our culture around masculinity. You see, we were taught from a very young age that real men have complete power and control. And that's the definition of being a man. And the only acceptable reaction to losing that power and control is to regain it through brute force, any way possible. We have built this culture of socialization around masculinity over a millennia. We are inundated with messages of what it takes to be a real man. This definition narrows with every generation. We are taught that there is only one way to be a boy. Any deviation must be met with swift punishment in the form of disparaging names, exclusion, and humiliation, until the child finds acceptance by shunning those same qualities. Get him in line. And as the child grows, he learns that his worth as a man is connected directly to his abilities on the sports field, his sexual conquests, how financially successful he is, and how much power he has over other people. These are often unattainable goals, and it leaves our boys frustrated with feelings of worthlessness and very, very angry. How do we combat this socialization? There are many different ways. I'd like to talk about two specific ways today. Number one, men must hold other men accountable for their actions. Forget this ride for the brand garbage when it comes to gender-based violence. Good men don't need to defend bad men. Instead of searching for ways to justify the poor behavior of our favorite sports hero, we need to stand up against that behavior. Only about 1 in 9 men are abusers. So the vast majority of us are not abusers. Yet we idly stand by as this culture perpetuates. If this majority of men take an active role in rejecting these ideals, then over time this culture will change. We need to call out misogyny whenever we see it. We need to stop accepting locker room talk. And we need to reject this whole boys will be boys culture that we helped build. I believe that good men are the secret weapon to ending gender-based violence. Number two, how we raise our boys matters. I had a football coach one time tell me that if I couldn't take a hit, they had an opening on the cheerleading squad and I would look cute in a skirt. The team laughed. Everybody laughed. It was pretty funny. And I wasn't the only player that heard this criticism either. This coach knew that the most effective way to motivate a young man was by calling into question his manliness. And it worked. But what was the message this coach was sending to our young men about girls? That they are less valuable than boys. Children learn from the adults in their lives, their parents and other family, uncles, aunts, grandparents, coaches and teachers, faith leaders. Furthermore, your children's friends learn from you as well. How would you want him to treat his future spouse, his children, or anybody for that matter? If you have a daughter, what traits in a partner would you want for her? Then consider your own relationships. Are you modeling healthy relationships properly? Do you promote unhealthy masculinity or sexism in the words you choose or the jokes you may make? Remember, the kids are watching and they're learning. Look, I know I'm essentially singing to the choir today. I'm very experienced at singing to the choir. In my work, in my time working in gender-based violence prevention, I've become used to being only one of a very few men in these spaces. However, we are starting to see change. In my work, I have spoken with many men about their role in ending gender-based violence. And overwhelmingly, men agree that something needs to be done, and they are willing to get involved. But we require a framework. This problem is so big and affects our communities in so many different ways. We simply do not know where to begin. So over the hill in Laramie, which I think is impassable today, men are getting together to help each other build that framework. This group is called Safe Men. Every year, 8 to 10 men agree to spend a couple hours each month to learn more about gender-based violence and their role in ending it. They also commit to developing their own project during the year that provides awareness, primary prevention, or direct services to survivors of domestic violence and their children. University professors, law enforcement officers, bar and restaurant owners, teachers and students alike, engineers, mental health counselors, retirees, mechanics, men from every corner of the community. There are currently 40 safe men. Next year there will be 50. The year after there will be 60, and it will continue to grow. There is absolutely no reason why these programs couldn't begin to change our socialized culture surrounding masculinity in every community in Wyoming. So, choir, I will leave you with a call to action. Look for those opportunities to begin these conversations and encourage the men and boys in your life to reflect on their own definitions of masculinity and consider what they can do to begin their journey as safe men and boys. Thank you so much for the invite. I appreciate all of you and your work.
Thank you, Ken. Well, you've heard some ways. We've heard a lot of good information. But we have to remember. Those victims whose lives were tragically taken in violence. Those devastated families who were left behind, missing them every day. Those young witnesses whose lives will never be the same because of domestic violence and abuse. Those now suffering at the hands of an abuser, you are not alone. The quiet, the love that can be shown in that silence. Take it forward. But the one thing I forgot to do. I am wanted in. I am part of that action team, whatever we call ourselves. And I do work at the front desk of the VOA. So, Karen, do you want to say anything? Karen is on that same team, and she's known to bend a ding-a-ling because she knows how to work that desk. Thank you, Karen. Moving on to supporting agencies. Well, there's one I really know a lot about, probably more than others, and that's VOA, Volunteers of America. And the first thing I want to really kind of do is we've talked about the ways to stop it.
but we really have to switch now to ways we can help the people that have been abused, or those that are the abuser. So at VOA, we do intake every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But I know, as being a person that needed counseling before, it didn't matter what day of the week it was, I didn't want to go in that door. I didn't want to go in that door and tell someone I needed help. So this is where Tiffany and I work together. If you want to stand up, Tiffany. Yes, we're singing to the choir, but you guys all could come in at some time. Tiffany is a front desk face. I'm a front desk face. So, if you kind of know us, it might not be as hard to come in that front door. I do know at VOA, we have services for both the abuser and the abused for domestic violence. But I'm going to have Alex come back up, and she's going to tell you some more of the services that we do have.
Thanks, Juana. Yeah, so at VOA we have services, we have mental health and substance abuse services for people of all ages. My youngest client's been 2 or 3 years old. My oldest one's been 93. So people of all ages, men, women, children alike. You know, one of the things about substance abuse that hasn't really been stated today, but I'll just throw it out there, is that a lot of times when things get tough in our lives, like sometimes we self-medicate with drugs and alcohol. And so I think it's important to throw out, Joanne's not here, but I'm supporting her, she's our substance abuse team lead. So I think it's important to recognize though her and her team and the work that they do. And so we have individual services, group services, case management services. I don't know, Wanda can attest to this. Our case managers are wizards at finding people resources and getting help for them through all sorts of different community agencies. We have peer specialists, people with lived experience that can then sit down and share their own experience with people. We offer medical services if that's something that you require, and also just crisis services in general. We have a 24-hour phone number with a therapist who's on call, and you know, that's person might be me several days a week, that you might get me or one of my teammates on that on-call phone. And those, I'm here to tell you that those people, they sign up for that and they don't mind getting woken up at 2 or 3 in the morning if that's what time people need to call and get help. So really any hour of the day, any day of the week, we're here to support in whatever way that we can. I appreciate you talking about the walk-in intakes. The other thing that my team and I have started this last month is walk-in for established clients, walk-in opportunities to meet with your therapist. We each have blocks on our schedules, and so that's something that if you're interested in. I didn't bring flyers for those times today, but I did bring business cards. So if you're interested in that, please just let me know. I think we also might have brochures too somewhere. So anyway, there you go.
I honestly can say that VOA has a lot of employees, but the reason those employees are still there is they have a passion to help people. And so come see us if you need to. But I know there's a lot of other agencies here that have some passion in their own world. So, Laramie County CASA program, court-appointed special advocates for children. Sandra Eichhorn, case manager. I don't know if you're attending. Oh, well, hi, stand up, wave. Yeah. We have Safe House. Do we have anyone from Safe House today?
I'll be starting in June.
Well, yes, that counts. That counts. Domestic Violence and Sexual Abuse Agency with Christline. Cheyenne Police Department Victims Assistance. Do we have anyone here today? They coordinate help. Cheyenne Regional SANE program is sexual assault for nurses. Provides a safe, compassionate, confidential care to anyone who has been affected by sexual abuse or sexual violence. Anyone here from there today? Well, as I read these last few, if you hear your name, stand up, wave, I can still talk, okay? Safe Harbor, a child advocacy center. They're committed to abuse and neglected children and recognize the significant responsibilities we undertake on their behalf. Equal Justice Wyoming, a state-funded civil legal service program working with Wyoming legal aid providers and community organizations. United Way of Cheyenne, together with our community, we take action that makes a meaningful difference in the lives of those with the greatest need. Climb Wyoming, for single mothers to discover self-sufficiency through career training and placement. I know there's people that will stand for this one. Don't let me down. Zonta Club of Cheyenne, envisioning a world where no woman lives in fear. Members provide hope bags to the forensic nurses at CRMC. Victim Services Division, that's through the Wyoming Attorney General. To cultivate social change and access to victim services through the provision of resources, education, and program support and development. I think we do on this one too. Family Promise of Cheyenne. Assist homeless families with minor children to become sufficient. Wyoming Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Woo, yes, we got it, yeah. Oh, see, I missed that one. Thank you, Ken. Thank you,
Ken.
Ken, Bob, I don't know. Hold on, let me find that, no. SAFE Project, Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Agency from Laramie, Wyoming.
That's sort of
You have a lot of titles, even
Well,
some that I've given you today.
I'll take a few more. It's all right.
All right. So I think now we have the break in the cycle.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Denise Parrish with Zonta Club of Cheyenne. Appreciate being invited to speak here. I want to talk a little bit, just kind of pile on to everything you've heard so far, but I wanted to just really talk about breaking this cycle more than anything else. And I have some very cryptic notes with a couple of statistics that might really show why it's important to think about this generationally. So there was a study, and 80% of the participants in the study who were survivors, victims of intimate partner violence, 80% of them had an adult child who also had some involvement in domestic violence. So it's cyclical, it's generational, because it's what they learn, it's what they see, it's what they learn to believe is normal. Okay, let's pile on to that. There was an international study across 6 countries, and it showed that adult women who experienced physical violence by their intimate partner had an average of, on average, had experienced their mother being abused. So that came out kind of awkwardly, sorry, but these adult women, 12% more than on average, if their mother had also been abused. So again, they saw it, they thought it was normal, they thought it was something that just went along in life. And then just one more about children, and I'm not even talking about the fact that most of these abusers of women or their intimate partners also abuse their children, or very likely abuse their children. But children exposed to domestic violence, okay, so they're in the household, they're young, they see this happening, were 15 times more likely to be physically or sexually abused themselves than the national average when they grew up. So, you know, they see it, and we have to stop this. And Zonta is currently in the raising awareness stage about these things. We're trying to get people to understand what's happening, that it is a silent killer in our community. And I'll close out just with one experience we had. We were in January at a awareness event that we were hosting. We had a participant, and I see some people who were there, so good to see you again. But one of the participants there, her mother had been abused and been a victim of intimate partner violence. She had been a victim of intimate partner violence. Her daughter had been killed as a result of intimate partner violence, and she was now raising her grandchild, her granddaughter. So, I mean, she was struggling because she saw what had happened in her family, what had happened to her, and she was desperately trying to make sure that it didn't happen to her granddaughter. So we all need to work on that. We need to find ways to do that. Zonta is looking for ways to partner with people. We've talked to Bob before about how we can engage men, but also teenage girls, so that they don't see it as a norm, even if they grew up with it in their household. They don't accept it. Not only do we have to say that men should stop doing it and boys should stop doing it, but we need to say girls and women should stop accepting it as a norm. So that's one of the things we're working on right now.
Thank you.
Pass them out? Yeah.
Sure. So again, we want to thank you all for coming. I've learned a word called slack division. Slack division. Anyway. It's when you bring awareness and then you don't do anything about it. Slack division. So in order to help other people, you need to help yourself. You need to be strong, take care of yourself, give yourself time, give yourself grace, and give yourself patience. So in front of you, there is the Real Woman Creed, but it also goes for gentlemen too, to be able to stand up for what you believe, to say something when you see something wrong. So if you will follow along, and read this with me. Then on the back we have a list of emergency telephones and hotlines if you want to pass this on to someone, and then we'll close with a song, right? If you'll join me in the Real Woman Creed. I believe that within me lies an extraordinary radiance, and I commit to letting my light loose in the world. I believe that the source of my power and wisdom is in the center of my being, and I commit to acting from this place of strength. I believe that I possess an abundance of passion and creative potential, and I commit to the expression of these gifts. I believe that the time has come to let go of old notions and unhealthy attitudes, and I commit to re-examine what I've been told about beauty and dismiss what insults my soul. I believe that negative thoughts and words compromise my well-being. I commit to thinking and speaking positively about myself and others. I believe that young women are in need of positive role models, and I commit to being an example of authenticity and self-love. I believe in the relationship between my well-being and the well-being of the planet, and I commit to a life of mindfulness that regards all living things as holy and worthy of my love. I believe it is my spiritual responsibility to care for my body with respect, kindness, and compassion. And I commit to balancing my life in such a way that my physical being is fully expressed and nurtured. I believe that joy is an essential part of wellness, and I commit to removing obstacles to joy and creating a life that is full of exuberance. I believe that a woman who loves herself is a powerful, passionate, attractive force, and I commit from this day forward to loving myself deeply and extravagantly. Thank you for your commitment. Now I'd like to introduce Pastor Zach and Michael Bechtel, and they'll lead us on the song in the back, which is Amazing Grace, My Chains Are Gone.
Again, we appreciate you all being here and all your hard work and all that you're doing to come together and surrounding people in our community and providing resources and hope for those who feel they're in hopeless situations. There's nothing like gathering in community and coming together in song, and we invite you to sing this one with us.
Amazing grace, how sweet